Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a Q&A. So I'm gonna answer some questions and it's gonna be a good time. Full disclosure, I usually look at the questions beforehand so I can at least kind of know what I should say, and I did not this time. So it's gonna be an adventure. But first I'm gonna grab some coffee and probably take off this blazer. I just got home from school and I feel like this is just a bit much for like a casual Q&A. So there's that. Also, I stopped by my mom's office because we didn't do anything for Easter. And so she had like a little Easter egg skit from her and my grandma. That's not gonna make it to my husband. All right, I will see you in a second. I think we're gonna go with my favorite Disney mug today. It changes color. Seriously guys, like look how cool. My mother-in-law got me this for Christmas and I am obsessed. So cool. Isn't it cool, darling? Yeah. Okay, take two. We are having a rough start to this video, but it's okay. Got my coffee, got my dog, which is part of the reason we had a rough start. She was just like all over me and I was like, I'm gonna need you to chill out. We're gonna answer some questions from YouTube, from the latest YouTube video, and then a couple from Instagram if we have time. So let's get started. On YouTube, Pink Sugar Fluff said, who do you use for hosting for your blog? I use SiteGround. I have a whole video about why I use them, why I like them, so I will leave that linked down below, and I will also leave a link to SiteGround. I have two different websites and I have used them for both and I've had good experiences. The only time anything messed up on my site is when it was my fault. So, you know, there's that. Next up, Zoe does story time, says keywords. If I'm specific, I get to go on the front page of results, but how do my buyers know what to type to find me? Not sure I explained that well. Okay, flip that. Keywords are not, you need to type this in order to find me. Keywords are, what are the people I'm targeting typing in order to find me? So, for example, if you are doing, I always try to go outside my niche and then I'm like, I don't know anything outside my niche. If you were trying to do like life cycle of a butterfly, Google Slides activities, okay? That's what we're going with. Then what are people typing in when they need something like that? So are they typing in like science lesson for 2nd grade? Are they typing in life of a butterfly? Are they typing in life of a butterfly science lesson? Are they typing in like digital science lesson or distance learning science lesson? Think that is where you're going. You want to look at the keywords as what are people typing in. Now, my strategy is always not just to do like one magic keyword. I know that's kind of the blogger way, but especially for TPT, don't just do like one magic keyword. You want kind of a variety. So if you were doing that life cycle of a butterfly, you would want to have in your description and some of these in your title. Like I would probably title that life cycle of a butterfly, whatever grade, science activity on Google Slides. Or digital life cycle butterfly, blah, blah, blah. That is what I would like title it. And then you would want to make sure that you have some of those chunks in your description. So like life cycle of a butterfly, digital science lesson, whatever grade you're teaching, all of those things in there. So so that's why it's such a big deal that your keywords be a little more niche down, because you do want to get to be seen. But the whole idea is that keywords are literally what are people typing in when they're looking for something that would end up being your resource. So flip it. Don't think what do they need to type in to find me. Think what are they typing in that goes along with my resource. Sarah C said, want to know more about building an audience for blogs when you're first starting out. So when you are blogging, we'll talk a lot about this in the blogging course that's coming out this summer, but the big thing about blogging is SEO, which is getting to be those keywords, and that's basically just making sure that Google knows what your post is about so that it can suggest it to people. So that's gonna be number one. Number two is that you are going to need to market it. I always suggest Pinterest, although Pinterest is like crazy town right now. So I don't even really want to talk about them, or social media or whatever. Those kind of things will also help to market your blog. But SEO and then some kind of traffic driver, like build your audience on Instagram, or, you know, start getting on Pinterest, or both, because they have completely different functions, and that's fine. But make sure you have that like SEO backing so that people can also find you. It does take longer. It is harder to build that organic, like people finding you that way, but you want to have that down pat before you think about marketing your blog to other people. Relate to educate is basically asking me what theme I used. I did not buy a theme. I just looked through the free ones that they had and picked whatever I thought was pretty. I don't even know what I have. So, sorry, that's not very specific. Rebecca Munoz, I don't know. Rebecca said, I'm so excited to follow your tips. I took a long break from TPT after having family problems, so I've been trying to come back to it. Do you have any tips on organizing? I have many tips on organizing. I'm assuming you're talking about like organizing your time, but I'm not totally sure. So as far as like organizing your time, the biggest thing is to figure out what you need to do in your business for it to run. And make sure that you schedule those out first. So if you need to write blog posts for your business to gain more traffic and get more audience members, then you need to do that. If you need to create new products in order for your business to run, then you need to schedule time to do that. Whatever you need to do in order for your business to keep going, you need to schedule time for. Then you can look at whatever you have left and see what else you would like to do and kind of those like furthering. So for example, I actually don't do any product creation in my main TPT time, which is mostly because I like product creation. So like I'll find time for it and I'll be like, oh, I have a couple minutes, I'm gonna go make a new product. Whereas other things like blogging, I feel like I need more structured time in order to be consistent with it. But that is how I would do it. Figure out what you need to do and do it that way. If you're talking about like actual organizing, I keep everything on a thumb drive, which my husband's always like, that's like archaic, but I can't find a better way to do it. So thumb drive it is. And that means that I can use it on my school laptop and use all my stuff at school, or I can use it at home. And so I use a thumb drive for everything. I always have a folder with products, and then I have a folder with finished products. So I just move it to the finished folder when it is finished, which is really, really helpful. And that in the products folder, there's always a folder with anything that I need for that product. So it's like easy to find later, as long as I actually did it how I was supposed to. Sometimes I don't, but that's my best organizing tip. That, and write everything down. You know what always gets me when I like hear people talk about planning? They're like, oh, you just write the 3 most important things for the day. And I'm like, but if I just write the 3 things, I'm gonna forget everything else. Because there's no way I'm gonna remember to clean the bathroom or take the trash out, or like, you know, send that random email, or, you know, like those little things that are not a huge deal, but they still need to get done. I have to write everything down. That being said, I also do have those prioritized of like, these are the 3 things that we need to get done, and everything else is a little more optional, but write everything down. Write everything down. Don't leave anything up to chance. All right, we're gonna head over to Instagram after that. I'm not even on the right Instagram. Do you ever have those days where you just feel like your life is a mess? Okay, Adolescence says, when do you make time to walk your dogs? Little random, okay, but I'm cool with it. We have a backyard, so I don't have to like walk my dogs all of the time, which is lovely. We used to have to do that, and it was miserable just because I have 2 large dogs, and it was just really time consuming. I take them running like twice a week, and then sometimes I walk them in the afternoons. During that, I always, like, when I come home, I try to have 30 minutes of like a break time before I start doing anything like cleaning or house tasks or working more on my shop, which is usually what happens. So I sometimes walk them during that time, but honestly, mostly they just play outside, because that's why we have 2, so they can play with each other. All right, Blinky's clip art says, when do most teachers need clip art to begin creating a seasonal resource? That's gonna depend on the teacher. I would say that, you know, people who are really on top of things, If you really want to market a good seasonal product, you want to have it done like 3 months early is what I always was told in the blogging world, to like, you know, 3 months before Christmas, to make sure that everything's out there and ready to go. Most of us, I would say, probably are closer to like a month out. So like, I had a St. Patrick's Day resource go out like about a month before St. Patrick's Day. So 1 to 3 months, I would say, is when we need clip art before a season. Ingrid said, what is the best, is it best to do a digital and print activity in the same product or separately? That depends. So my kind of level with it is it the exact same product or is it different? So if it's the exact same product, then I will put them together. But typically, just the nature of digital versus printable, I feel like we usually, at least in my resources, they usually end up at least kind of different. And for that reason, I typically do mine separately. That, and also as a music teacher, people who are going on to TPT to look for digital stuff versus printable stuff are kind of like two different mindsets. Like, I know when I need a printable resource or when I need a digital resource. So that might not be as relevant for like classroom teachers who might need both. But that's always my stamp of approval. Do they need both? And is it the exact same? If the answers are no, then no. But like, I just created a digital board game, and I'm probably gonna make a printable board game, and I'm probably gonna put that in the same file because it's basically the same thing. But like, I have, I know a shy fellow who swallowed a cello activities, printable and digital, and they're different, so they're listed differently. All right, High Vibe Teaching said, what is the benefit of a business license? The benefit of a business license is that you are legal. You need a business license, friends. I wish I could have like a giant sign behind me. If this would not be like super non-aesthetically pleasing, I would totally do this. Just like a giant sign that says like the things that I feel like everyone needs to know. You need a business license. If you are on TPT, you are running a business. If you are selling things, you are running a business. You should not have a business if you don't have a business license. So if you don't have a business license, you need to figure out what you need to do to get one. This is gonna be different depending on where you live. So my advice is to look it up. It might go through your city, it might go through your county, but basically you're going to need to register with, you're gonna wanna talk to a tax person or accountant or a lawyer would be my suggestion, because you really need to register for, because you need a business license with your county. You need that. Is that the same as an LLC? No, not quite. I am not an accountant, not a lawyer, none of those things, so don't take any of this as true, but I'm going to tell you what I understand. You register with the federal government as a sole proprietor or a LLC or a, S corp or whatever. And then you also get a business license to do business in your city or county, depending on where you live, or maybe it's your state, I don't know. Figure it out for where you live. So like, I had to register with the federal government once, and then I also had to register with my county, and I have to do that every year. So an LLC, I get this question a lot. Go talk to a tax person. Go talk to an accountant, go talk to a tax person, because LLCs are really, the purpose of an LLC is it's a business classification. So it's a type of business that you can have. And it's basically just a way to protect your assets against liability. It literally means limited liability corporation, I believe. We don't have a ton of liability because you probably don't have a building. You probably don't have that many employees. If you have anybody, you don't have like a company car. You don't have any of those things that create a lot of liability. So go talk to someone about that, because it might be more beneficial for you to be a sole proprietor than to be an LLC. I've heard stories of people who became LLCs and it just made life much more complicated than it needed to be, and they really didn't need it. So go talk to someone who is a professional about what your business ought to be and how to make it legal, because you'll need to register with the government as either sole proprietor or an LLC. It's gonna be one of those two. I'm not gonna recommend either one because I am not a professional, but if you can get from the tone of my voice that sometimes LLCs are unnecessary and not helpful, take from that what you will. Seriously though, go talk to either an accountant or a lawyer who like sets up LLCs and registers businesses, because they can tell you what you actually need to do. But yes, you need a business license, 100%, 100%. Actually, I will throw this in there because someone's gonna come at me for it. I'm gonna need you to chill out. There is a thing where if you only make a certain amount of money, you can call it a hobby instead of a business. And the taxes are a little bit different. And so anytime I say that you need, you know, a business license and it's a business and all that, someone comes at me for this. Here's my 2 cents, friends. If you are on TPT, it's because you're trying to make money, you're running a business, treat it like a business, get a business license. So there is like a certain threshold where if you make under it, it's technically a hobby, but I'm just gonna say it. Treat your business like a business. It's not a lot of money. I don't know what it is. I'm not gonna do it. You can look it up if you would like to, but yeah, again, talk to an accountant or a tax preparer and get your business license. High Vibe Teaching also asked about the tax option on TPT, because I think she just wants to get me in trouble giving you, you know, legal and tax advice here on the internet. I am not a tax preparer. I am not an accountant. I have never done a video on sales tax because frankly, I don't understand it. So here's what I'm gonna say is that the setting in TPT asks which states you need to collect sales tax for. So in the past, you only had to pay sales tax for sales in your state to in your state. So like I live in Georgia, so I would only need to pay sales tax on from Georgia to Georgia. Like if you remember, I remember when I was a kid and I would always get the American Girl doll catalogs, and it was like you didn't have sales tax unless you lived in these certain states, because it was that same thing where it was only if you were in the state where the store was that you had to pay sales tax. That has been changing the last couple of years, and so that has been the big thing. So that's why TPT collects some sales tax, but not all sales tax, because they collect it from certain states but not others. You need to talk to an accountant or someone like that who can tell you what states you need to collect sales tax for, because it might not be all of them. And so that is what you're checking on that sales tax setting. So you're checking off the states that you need to collect sales tax for, and then TPT automatically collects sales tax for other ones. It's very confusing. I don't understand it fully, so ask an accountant so that you, especially because we're not all in the same place, and if you're in a different country, I have no idea. So definitely talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing. Okay. A little bit easier. All right, Fundle Bundle 246 said, how did you create your course? I created my course on Teachable. I just filmed videos like I normally do, and what I did is I just listed out all the videos I wanted to film. I filmed each one, stuck them in my editor and edited each one, which was gonna be the death of me, and then exported them, uploaded them, and made the printables. Teachable makes it super, super easy. You do have to pay for it. I don't believe you do have to pay for it, but it's not a ton. I think I pay like 40 bucks a month for it. So there's that. All right, my second sense says Blogger or WordPress. WordPress all the way, all day, all night. Always. I'm in a lot of blogging groups, and even now there's people who are like, oh, I started on Blogger and I had to change to WordPress and it was horrible, and it's just all these things. So go with WordPress. Blogging group on Facebook, by the way. Erin asked, how do you deal with rude buyers? Frankly, I just try to not worry about it because it's you know, it's business. And so even though it's really, really hard, because it's like, I poured my heart and soul into this and all I want to do is help people, sometimes they don't realize that there's an actual human being on the other side of the screen. A lot of them don't realize how TPT works. So that's why you sometimes get reviews that are like, technical issues, even though they say not to do that, but still they'll be like, or like questions. Someone was asking me the other day, they're like, this is included in 2 different bundles. What happens if I buy both? And I was like, I guess it gets copied in your Google Drive twice. Like, oh, I don't really know. Like, I don't know, lady, but they're bundles and they're like super on sale. Just buy them. Like, you're still saving way more money than if you wanted to go and buy all of them individually. So, the best thing to do is just to try not to let it get to you. If it's a review, my suggestion is going to be to like wait a day or 2 before you reply to it. Reply as kindly as possible and see if their concerns are valid, because sometimes someone comes off as rude, but really they're just frustrated because they expected something different, or they were unhappy with something. And sometimes it's a legitimate thing. Some of my best updates have come from people who have left comments. So that's my best thing to do with that. Mergan, MERGAN 531 said, TPT stats don't go past a year old. How do you see what your best-selling overall products are? On your store page, sort by most popular. Whatever's at the top is your best-selling resource. So that's why, even though that's why like my digital stuff has been selling like crazy the past year, you know, since I started making digital stuff. And it just in February, a digital product surpassed my printable resource as like the top one. So I assume this is Madame Molinda, said, how do you start a podcast? You record stuff. Actually, what I'm gonna tell you is I'm gonna leave a link to Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income. Has a really helpful blog post with a freebie you can download that is like amazing. So I will leave the link to that in the description and you can go and check that out, because it is the most helpful. It goes through like what equipment you need. It goes through like, I mean, literally everything, and it's free. So there's that. And then another one from Madame Molinda says, I have less than 100 products. Where should I start? Email list or blog? Okay. Unfortunately, those 2 things have completely different purposes. So blogs are there to increase your reach. So they are to provide content to people who are already following you, but also to help people find you and hopefully to increase some conversion rates on products and drive traffic to products. Email lists are also marketing platforms, but it is for people who already know who you are, because you have to sign up for an email list versus a blog you can just find on Pinterest. So they serve different purposes in that blogs help increase your traffic of like new people and help convert people who like kind of have heard of you into warmer people and help get onto your email list. Your email list is not gonna your email list is to take your like established people. They are both extremely important. They just serve different purposes. The reason I'm telling you this is because if you have an email list, you have to have a way to drive traffic to your email list, because no one can just find it on their own. It's not like a blog where I can type into Google what questions I have and it's gonna like pop up with websites. So like that's why a blog is good. People can type it into Google, or they can go to Pinterest, or you know, whatever, and that's how they find you. With an email list, someone has to find you like on a blog or on social media or something to do that. So my suggestion is, if you already have an audience on like social media, I would go with the email list first. If you do not have any audience, I would go with a blog first, because the blog is going to provide that traffic. You can't really get traffic to an email list if you just have it, but you don't have anything driving traffic to it. So I hope that answers your question. All right, friends, that was a whole bunch of questions, and that's all that I got. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have more questions, leave them down below. I'm happy to answer them in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Keywords. If I am specific, I get. Hi. Apparently we're doing this together. Okay. This would be a really cute thumbnail. That not so much. Okay.